Hank, I'd like you to speak to the fact of there's a tremendous New York City dimension to this story. Well, first of all, Olson dies right on 7th Avenue, across the street from Madison Square Garden. And then there's doctors that are here as well. But there are individuals, there are citizens. There was a safe house that the CIA set up on Barrow Street in the Village, where they set up a fake brothel and they were dosing the Johns without their knowledge. And then you even have, you've got this guy White who lived on 12th Street, right?
Yeah, I think he did live on 12th Street. And he operated, there was a Federal Narcotics Bureau agent who was contracted in 1952 by the CIA to operate a safe house, which is basically a secret house. That's all that means, in New York City. And it was at the building's gone now because it was rumored to have been owned by some drug trafficker from France, and the CIA leased it from this guy, and then had White go in there and set up dual apartments with a one-way mirror where they could see subjects in the other apartment unit. But it was at 81 Bedford Street, which was at the corner. It was actually 81 Barrow Street and then 81 Bedford, and the building, I guess, came out to the corner, and it's right around the corner. Chumley's Bar is right around the corner. I guess that's a famous bar here in New York City, and it's still, the bar is still operational. But White, George White, the narcotics agent, was contracted to run that safe house. And basically what he was doing, he wasn't a scientist, he wasn't a doctor, he had no medical training whatsoever. He'd been in the OSS during the Second World War and had some exposure to drugs through the truth drug program the OSS had attempted to start during World War II. But in the early 50s, he was hired by the CIA to run this safe house, and was given an ample supply of LSD to use in any way that he wanted. And White became very skillful at bringing in criminal types, mostly drug traffickers, into the safe house under various pretenses, and then he'd dose them with LSD and interrogate them. And I think in some cases actually successfully got some information. How useful it was, I don't know. But the more abusive things that we learned in the research I did was that White not only was using LSD on people in the safe house, but he took a good supply of it home with him. And occasionally, White wasn't a very social creature, but his wife was. She was a buyer here in New York City, I think, for Macy's, and then another department store before that. But she entertained a lot, and George reluctantly would go along with it. But George had a tendency to dose people at the cocktail parties that his wife would have. And there's a pretty extensive record on it now, and it was inevitably women that he would dose. And what I was able to discover, a couple of these women actually were so frightened about what was happening to them, because White wouldn't say at any point in the experience, "Well, I put a drug in your drink." You know, he just played dumb. And some of these people were, basically going out of their minds. And a couple of these women checked themselves into local hospitals. I think Beth Israel, and there's a Lenox Hospital, is that near?
Lenox.
Yeah, the Lenox Hospital. And two of the women were diagnosed, because of what they were going through, as paranoid schizophrenics because of their behavior. And again, keep in mind, this is the 50s. The doctors have no idea. They're under the influence of some sort of drug like LSD. And one of these women was actually institutionalized for 12 years because of her behavior, until 20 years later she found out, oh my God, I was dosed by George Hunter White with LSD. Now I understand what happened to me.
Hank White also tried an aerosol LSD spray bomb in a subway car?
On behalf of the CIA, White was given a light bulb type device. It might have been, it was explained in the records I read as a light bulb type device, but it might have actually even been a light bulb that they filled with a LSD aerosol. And in '52, that was detonated by White and another federal narcotics agent on the New York subway system. And the reports went to the CIA. Unfortunately, all of those reports were destroyed in 1973 deliberately by the CIA before they could become public. And there was another instance where White also detonated a small aerosol device on the New York subway system. And the Army in '53 drove an old, I think it was a Studebaker, with a retrofitted aerosol device on the tailpipe through parts of New York City, spraying LSD and other chemicals. But based on what I've read, that experiment for some reason wasn't very successful.